What's going on, everyone? Anthony Cofrancesco here from Data Dive, and this is Office Hours. This is going to be real world case studies number 5 today, and we've got a special guest here today, an Inner Circle member and an agency owner, Bernard Nadar. We're going to be introducing Bernard in just a little bit, but I'm going to go through the intro while we're waiting if there's any stragglers who are still joining. If you are watching this recap on YouTube, which I know many people do, please feel free to use the section markers down at the bottom, and you can navigate, you can skip past the intro and go to whichever section that you want to see. If you're not already using Data Dive, obviously real world case studies is going to show Data Dive a lot. So if you want to learn more about how to use the software, if you want to get set up with a free trial, we have a handful of coaches, people who are actively selling on Amazon, launching products. They don't just know the software very well, they also have some larger Amazon strategies that will certainly help your brand grow. So you can either go to datadive.tools/demo, or you can scan the QR code on your screen and get signed up for a call. Now, I am guessing there's going to be a pretty fair amount of questions today because PPC is a topic we haven't covered a lot. So when you do have questions, we're going to save those until the very end. You can either raise your hand or you can drop your question into the chat. Now, if you're new to Data Dive and you're looking at becoming an expert, there's 3 different ways that you can learn. We have our knowledge base powered by our AI chatbot. We have our YouTube channel. And then, of course, we do office hours 3 times a week. So if you want to access the knowledge base, there's this question mark icon in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. You can either navigate directly to the knowledge base, or you can type a question into the chat, and then the knowledge base is going to either find the answer or route you to the correct article. Now, all of our past office hours are live on YouTube. You'll see them in the Office Hours V2 playlist. So I think we have the first 4 up. This one is going to go up in the next 24 to 48 hours, depending on when we get it edited. And so you can look through the playlist and see any of the previous office hours sessions. And when you're looking at the playlist, you're going to see a few different types of videos, really broken down into 3 main categories. We have the quick start guide, which is more of here's what the UI is, here's how to use different functions inside Data Dive. It's more of a central framework, high level, big picture concepts. The next set of videos that we have inside of the Office Hours playlist is Speed Round. It's really where we go beyond the essential framework we covered in the Quick Start Guide, and we're showing you the Data Dive workflows over and over again. So we validate 3 products in 30 minutes. We launch 3 products in 30 minutes. We optimize 3 products in 30 minutes. So just like going to the gym, the first few times you lift a weight, it's going to feel a little awkward. But once you've repeated the motion, once you've seen it a few times, once you've done it a few times, you get more confident. Now, real world case studies, that's what we're doing right now. And we've been doing for the past few weeks is moving beyond the theory and saying, okay, what do these workflows actually look like in the real world? And so I won't spend too much time going over these workflows, but you can see the other videos on the YouTube channel if you want a deeper explanation as to what any of them are. Today, we're going to be focusing more on the workflows that are in the launch section when you're launching a new product. And so really around the creating PPC campaigns for launch, Bernard is going to be sharing a really good strategy with us today. That is, how do you launch profitably? How do you get indexed and have a high organic rank for keywords pretty much right away? And so we're going to be covering that. It's a little bit different from some of the other SOPs that we've shared before, but it's really good. The other thing we're going to look a little bit at is the optimization workflow. So we're going to spend most of our time covering the section related to launch, but we're also going to be talking a little bit about a product with some opportunity for optimization that's already doing really well. That's going to be a bonus over at the end. So if you need to see those workflows, I recommend checking out the Speed Round. There's a couple advanced videos in there that are really solid. So with that being said, I want to give a special thanks to today's real world case study guest. We have Bernard. Bernard, you got to tell me, my middle name is Bernard, so I'm always used to saying Bernard. If I'm butchering that, you got to let me know. But he is from PPC Maestro. He is an active member of our inner circle community. If you follow this guy on Facebook, you're going to see he's always posting screenshots, strategies. And so he was kind enough to join us today. Can you give us a little intro about yourself and talk to us a little bit about your agency, PPC Maestro?
Sure. Hey, Anthony, thanks for having me again. Sure. So a little bit background about me. So I was a seller about 7 years ago. I started, right? Yeah, as you guys know, COVID hit and we had some complications with the whole supply chain and all that. We stopped selling back in 2020, and then we basically started mainly focusing on PPC, like managing PPC for brands. So we've been doing it for about 6 years now. And yeah, it's going good. So far, so good.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to hear from you a good bit during this because we have actually a pretty detailed breakdown of what their launch procedure SOP looks like. I always like to start, we're going to follow the same format we've done for other real world case studies where we start with problem, solution, and then we look at the impact. But just to begin kind of with the end in mind, I like to show where does this all end up in the end? Where are we going? And so basically what you're going to see in this case study is being able to launch a new product and then be profitable and on page one, some with very high organic ranks, all within a very short time frame from launching. And so, like I said, today we're going to really focus on product number one. And then at the end, we're going to give you a little bit of a bonus and go through an optimization in product number two. If everyone likes the content today, then we'll definitely want to have you back on for another case study. So product number one is a new launch. The goal is how can we achieve high organic ranks? It's a beverage related item and it's in home goods. And we'll get to the product number two in just a minute. So in product number one, this is kind of the problem that we're laying out right here is how do we achieve high organic rank quickly and then do this in a profitable way? Typically, the guidance is like just go crazy on PPC in the beginning from day one. In the last couple of case studies, there's been a little bit different of a strategy with Arnav and Dimitro. Not saying one is right or wrong. This is just a different strategy where they're not profitable until like 3-4 months into the launch. So this is a little bit different way of doing things, but I think a very valuable way of looking at it. And what you're seeing on the screen here is basically the starting point. So this is Rank Radar inside a data dive. You can see there's a bunch of keywords being tracked here, and obviously everything is starting out not being indexed. Those are the red ranks, the 101 plus. And you can see that within the first few days of launch, we start moving in a positive direction. And so the core problem here is around creating those initial PPC campaigns. What are you going to be doing in the first few days and in the first month of launch? And so how can a high organic rank be achieved after launch? So we're going to really break down the solution here, getting into the nuts and bolts of this PPC strategy. But I also want to take a little bit of time because, like I said, we're focusing exclusively on PPC today. But there's some other precursors, things that happen before starting to optimize PPC. And I'm curious, Bernard, if you can speak to this at all. In the Loom video that you sent to me, you were talking about how product selection is super important, looking at the market and seeing the overall potential, having strong images, making sure that the listing is optimized for ranking juice. This product is obviously very successful, as everyone's going to see very short after launch. Can you talk a little bit about, I know PPC Maestro really focuses predominantly on PPC, but can you talk about some of these other areas that were important that were important before getting to PPC?
No, for sure. I mean, PPC doesn't matter if the product selection is not right, pretty much, simply as that. So I'm very fortunate to be working with brands where the owners really understand their market, right? They understand how to pick products. They understand how important it is to have like really high quality images. And of course, SEO, right? You got to have the right keywords in the title, bullet points, and everywhere, right? So having said that, that's like number one for sure, right? PPC, the way we did it is primarily due, the success was for sure due because of the product selection, for sure, right? But now the PPC, the keyword selection, this time we went very specific. We went strategically for high relevancy, high volume keywords, period, right? That's what we aim for right from the day one. So that's the only reason, that's the only way we've tried like to get results like this. We could get results like this. We tried before like having a lot of different keywords, but this one, we only had like a very few keywords. Like I think it was under 50 of them. So I think it was like closer to 30.
Wow.
So yeah, you got to be very strategic, very yeah, as it gets more competitive, of course you got to select your right keywords for sure, right? So yeah, again, it's extremely important to understand the market, to understand that, you know, you got to offer something better than the competitors, period.
Sounds good. Okay. Yeah. And look, if anyone needs extra help on this kind of things, writing the listing is super fast. We have many other videos on the channel. Data Dive will do a lot of that for you as long as your master keyword list is cleaned and you can identify what roots need to go into the title and into the bullet points. We've got some other real world case studies that are talking about the strong images. We've got some free master classes there, and then product selection and understanding the market. We have videos on as well. Today, we're going to really drill into the PPC strategy that worked here for this product. And so we break it down into 3 phases. I've got some notes on the screen. I was sent over like a full-blown SOP. I'm not 100% sure if we can share it with everyone publicly, but this is going to be a pretty decent breakdown, and we'll get some explanations for each of these. So this is starting at start of phase 1, pretty much day 1 of launching. And the goal is, how do we go from being not indexed for any of these keywords and to move into actually being indexed? So this is a really high level overview on what's going on here, focusing with these exact match campaigns. And so the notes that I have is start with exact match campaigns. This is going to help you achieve profitability faster versus going all in from the start with like the phrase campaigns. This is something that was already mentioned. Keep keywords to less than 100 keywords, ideally of 50 or less. When in doubt about a keyword and the relevancy, remove. So if something's on the edge, just remove it if you don't feel like it's relevant. And then we've talked about this in the last 2 case studies, Vine being super important, sometimes a little bit pricey, but necessary. A lot of this strategy is going to focus on reviews. Submit 30 units to Vine on day 1. Can you go into a little bit more depth about this? I know these are kind of short explanations, but anything that I'm missing here?
Sure. Let's see. Exact match campaigns. I think I don't know if I added the starting bids. Yeah? So you got to go. We don't use the suggested bids at all, right? So we basically come up with a number where the maximum bid we're willing to spend pretty much for a product. So we're very conservative in terms of the starting bids. So maybe I
think I get to it a little bit here. If you want to walk through, this is the more detailed area.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody here has used Data Dive before, right? For this purpose. So I think here mainly it's segmentation, right? So we don't want very high volume search terms or keywords occupying too many, just one campaign, right? We want to break them up so that you don't have one keyword eating up all the budget of one campaign, right? So the way we do that, we have the second bullet point explains that. So the ratio shouldn't be greater than 10. Yes, so it should be less than 10, right? Not greater than 10. So having that is like, it makes sure that you don't have one of them eating up all the budget, pretty much. That's extremely important in terms of high volume keywords, right? So at the end of the day, you might have a campaign that has no more than 3 targets in it. So that's fine. Dynamic down for sure. And this one here might need a little bit of more explanation. So the way we do it is dynamic down first, right? So if you don't get enough traffic there, you might need to tweak some things, right? Initially, we don't tweak the bids right off the bat. What we do is we tweak the starting strategy, the bidding strategy. So we would start with down only. If that doesn't work, we will go fixed bid, making sure that we hit the target bids we want. Then if that doesn't work, we might go up and down and really track it like every day. You could get out of control quickly, right? And then revert back to down only at some point once you do get some traction going. You might find that whatever bid you select is not enough to get any traction, so you might need to play around with this a bit. Okay, and then suggested bid, yeah, there you go. So these again, we have a max, basically a maximum bid where we want to spend for the product, right? Sometimes, you know, if it's a very competitive niche, which is where the product selection is extremely important, right? You got to select the keywords or the targets that are not too competitive so that you don't spend too much money. That's probably like really, really important because you don't want to be spending $5 a click for a product that's $30. That's not going to work, right?
What are
So
you,
for
what are
this
you
launch
using
here,
to what are you
say that
using to
again?
calculate what the maximum bid is?
So we look at the suggested and we say, okay, does it make sense if we're selling that this particular product was priced at, I believe, in the 40s, right? I think it was like 40 since launch. We didn't do any discounts, by the way, on this. Nothing, no discounts, full price, and we launched it as is. So the launching price was, I believe, was $45.
Okay.
So for that, we were willing to have at least 15 clicks at about $1 each. So that's fine. We're willing to bid that much, right? Again, we had to tweak a little bit of some of the campaigns because we didn't get enough traffic in some of them. So we needed to either increase the bid or change the bidding strategy, right? And then of course, budget starts at 10, but you got to keep track on if it's performing well, you got to give it more budget, right? What we don't do at the beginning is mess with the bids much. We don't like change. If something is actually converting, we don't touch the bid until phase 3, I believe. Yeah. So we got to give it enough time to get clicks and sales because we still have zero review at this point. Yep. And it's important to keep in mind that conversion rate really increases with higher reviews, right? So that's why we don't go on in stage. We don't move to stage 2 until we have a good solid review base. Like typically we wait for 5 to 10 reviews, and they have to be like really good reviews, 4.5 and up, right? If we don't get that, we stay in that stage. We just keep on tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, and then sometimes it just doesn't work. But in this case, it worked pretty well, right? Yeah.
And then on top of the exact match campaigns, you're also starting product targeting campaigns from day one.
Yes. So mainly we have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mainly we have exact match campaigns and then one product targeting campaign. I mean, we've been trying that. We've been using that strategy for years, but what's different here is that we're only using exact at the beginning. We don't use anything else. No broad, no phrase, nothing else, right? So I think this has been like a main reason why it's profitable right away because it's gaining organic ranking really, really fast if you select the product correctly and the keywords correctly, right? So yeah, the product targeting is pretty straightforward. We picked like ideally like 10 to 20 that are like highly relevant for sure. And of course we got to have a competitive advantage over them. So either by price, but ideally we do have a better product overall. So that's probably why it does so well, right? Again, it starts with the really good product selection, and yeah, everything else makes it even better. That's it.
I want to ask about this bullet point right here because I feel like this is an important one. So you're saying to only target competitors that you feel like you're going to be able to win against.
Yes.
What are the criteria that you're looking for there? Is it just, are you saying that you wouldn't go after sellers that are already established and have high reviews, or you're more saying you got to be really confident that your product actually is a better option than the competitors? Can you walk through that a little?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if they have like a lot of reviews and we don't offer anything special or anything different, then that's not going to work, obviously, right? So you want to make sure we don't like competing on price either. That's why we launch at full price. So the way we do the product research is we make sure that our product is just superior. Like the listing is superior, the offering is definitely superior. The price, if they think the product is going to solve their need, then they're willing to pay the higher price, which is proof of it right here. They paid full price for it right off, right on at the first few days. We got a lot of sales.
Okay.
So you got to make sure you have uh, a better product. Ideally, we look at the reviews and we see what's going on, what people are looking for, what's not offered currently in the market, and then we just give them that. Simple as that. Um, it's just a better product, and typically they are willing to pay a little bit more if it is a better offer, right? So
Okay. Sounds good. So this is step one. It's going to get a little bit more a little more complicated from here. Not complicated, but just there's things you need to do before moving on. There's some
yeah,
other notes that you sent over in the SOP. So I think we talked a little bit about this. After 48 hours, you're going to be doing manual up down bidding adjustments.
yes,
Don't. This is a big one I think here that was emphasized. Don't make too many adjustments before getting reviews because you want to avoid what would be excluding high performance keywords. And this should say ACE in here, but can you talk a little bit about these PPC agility adjustments, what this means?
yeah. So we used to have an internal software where it actually automates the bidding. So we want to make sure that initially for the launch, we don't automate anything. Everything is done manually up until, I believe, third week of launch. So everything is done by human eye, pretty much. We want to make sure we analyze every single keyword and make proper adjustments. Softwares obviously cannot do that yet, right? Maybe in the future with AI, but now we do this manually, which has proven to be pretty successful. So yeah, so the point here is that not to make any major bid adjustments, right? So if you're not getting enough impressions, don't go around and changing the bid, lowering the bid, right? Because it doesn't really make sense. If you're looking for more traffic, you gotta increase the bid, like not by much, like just a little bit, right? And if you do get sales, keep in mind that the conversion rate is always going to be lower because you have no reviews or very little reviews, right? So keep in mind that you want to give enough time for the data to tell you what to do, right? So this is extremely important in terms of not doing anything automated at this stage. You got to do everything manual, and then just take it day. We look at it every couple of days, right? We look at the data, how it comes in, and see if we want more impressions or if we want less of it, or control the budget, whatever is needed at that time.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the step two, and I think I might be missing something here about there's some requirements before moving on to step two. And from what I remember you explaining to me is it's really based around reviews. That you're
Yes.
really trying to get like 10 reviews minimum. I mean, 5 reviews minimum, 10 is ideal. This
Yes.
is largely, I'm guessing, from Vine, and you want to make sure that those are good reviews, like they're like 4.5 stars. And the question I have on that is what do you do in a situation where if you're trying to implement the strategy and either you're not getting reviews or the reviews come in and they're bad? Do you just abandon, relaunch the product? Like, how would you approach that situation?
No, I wouldn't necessarily abandon the product. What I would do is basically understand what the issue is, right? If it's really something that makes sense. I mean, sometimes you get bad reviews based on things that don't really matter, right? It's like maybe it wasn't delivered on time, or maybe the packaging was broken. Make sure that the reviews make sense in terms of the quality of the product, right? But in a case where it is a highly relevant issue where, yeah, the product did not deliver on the promise, then yeah, you might need to address it quickly, right? If it's not, then if it's specifically for a certain target or keyword, I would basically limit ad spend on it, right? And see and wait for more reviews to come in, and hopefully, yeah, get away from the bad. Yeah, if it's like in the lower four, then you might have an issue with the product itself, obviously. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you want to make sure that it's not an issue, a product quality issue. Yeah, that's going to be a deal breaker for sure. But if it's related to like a keyword that you could control, then I would do that, limiting the budget on that. Um, in terms that's basically what you could do. You can't really address anything else in that stage. You just got to make sure that Yeah, if you did your work correctly, you did a good market research, you understand the product and the actual market, then you should be fine, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's ultimately a really good product is gonna shine at the end of the day. That's all that counts.
yeah. And it sounds like if the product is underperforming a little bit, you just might have to wait a little bit longer before moving on to
Yeah,
step two, versus if the product's really good, you're going to get those 5 to 10 reviews at a high review rating, at a high
yes.
star rating very quick. And then you're going to be able to move on to step two. As you can see here from the graph, it's like this was, I kind of remember it being, it was almost like a week or two into the launch, and we're already moving on to step two. You can see now we're going from not being indexed in the last slide here. We're showing like, okay, we're starting to pick up some organic rank, but by the time we get here to phase two, and that's the section that's highlighted, we're
Mhm.
already starting to have really high organic ranks for a lot of different keywords. So in the step one, we were focusing on the exact match campaigns and the product campaigns. Here, we're expanding beyond this a little bit. You want to walk us through? These are some standard campaigns. Then we've got sponsor brand video and the catch-all auto. Can you walk us through some of this?
Sure, sure. So, yes, step two, phase two, I guess that's the way we call it. So basically, we have the exact same keywords as exact. We just launch them in broad and phrase, making sure that we cover all the different match types, right? Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process to do that. It's just the exact same word, keyword targets, just all the match types. And then here, what's important here is, yeah, we're conservative, especially with like broad match campaigns, because they could generate a lot of, irrelevant stuff, which of course I don't think this is here, but we use the broad match type modifier as well for every single broad match campaign. Well, the plus sign you add in terms of the keyword, we use that as well, right? So we want to make sure that the algorithm gives us what we're looking for, so it doesn't give us like anything irrelevant. Um, and then the sponsored brands video, this one here is, it's a hit or miss, right? It depends. Some products do well with that, some don't. In this case, this one actually did well because it's a high-end product where I guess the video kind of explains how to use it. Then yeah, that did really well. Uh, it's basically like you want to be careful with the bids because they could be expensive for sponsored brand video. And here we only do phrase match campaigns, so I don't think it says that here. But we don't do any broad match or exact for sponsored brand video. We just use phrase match
Interesting.
at the beginning, right? Eventually, if it converts well, then we might test the other match types. But we use phrase for this one because the reason being it doesn't really help with ranking, so we don't really care because phrase match for this brand has shown to perform better. That's why we use phrase match. Um,
When
and
we're
then we launch, huh?
Can
What's
I
that?
ask a question about the sponsor brand video? So, what are
Sure.
the indications to you that the sponsor brand video isn't going to be effective for that product? Is it like you're getting impressions, but you're just not getting any conversions? Or is it like, do you ever go back and say maybe it's the video creative that we're using and we need to come up with a new version? Like, how do you determine if you're going to move forward with sponsor brand video? Like, what were the indicators for this product specifically that you were like, okay, this is working. Maybe we need to put some more focus into this.
Yeah. So again, it comes down to understanding the market and what they're looking for, right? So for this one, it was like I said, it's a very visually appealing product, right? So video for it made sense. So the quality is off. We had a really quality video done for this, right? It cost quite a bit of money, but it was at the end worth the money. Um, the strategy behind it is just, yeah, you got to try it to see if it works. If it gets good traction, then yeah, keep going with it. If not, then yeah, you got to. With this one, I would not like typically try anything new at this stage. I would probably wait until after stage three. If that didn't work, if this would not work, then we would probably skip it, right? We would just like, okay, we give it a try at this stage. We're gonna wait until we're actually making money and then maybe try to reinvest in this. But it worked at first try pretty much. So I guess it was a really good, not just product selection, but really understanding what type of video to create for this. And then the last one is basically like a catch-all campaign, a simple catch-all with low bids to make sure we catch different types of placements, different placements at low CPC. That's the point of this one.
Okay, sounds good. So I think we cover all of that. I also do want to note here, because I know when we're looking at these screenshots, we're seeing not a lot. There's a handful of ranks that are really good, but then there's what's going on here with these lower organic ranks. And so I do just want to note that this has been a super successful campaign. We're looking at like single digit numbers for most of the keywords that we're looking at. Some of the keywords that don't have the highest organic ranks are some of these more residue outlier keywords versus what's inside of the master keyword list. I know we're going to get a little bit into phase 3 as well, but do you have a strategy for you're trying to target these, they're definitely relevant keywords, but it's like keywords that the whole niche is having difficulty getting indexed for, getting ranked for. At what point do you say, hey, do we look at the data and say maybe these aren't worth it to target? Do you still keep pushing? What's your decision criteria there?
So initially, if it's like you're not ranking for them, we'll probably just leave them alone for now and come back to them at a later stage, because the product is successful. We would not want to jeopardize anything at this stage, right? We just want to make sure we keep on track, and just like maybe later on we'll go back to them and say, hey, okay, let's try them out now and see if we could get them to rank. But at this stage, I would just skip them, just leave them alone.
Okay. So let's get into the step 3 here. I got to adjust this slide to say phase 3. So now we're starting to get a lot more green on the screen. This is all within a few weeks of launching. And so step 3 is really around maximizing the targeting options. So we're talking, I'll let you talk through this. Anything you want to mention about what's going on in phase 3?
Sure. So the really detailed process for this is we break up like converting keywords into 2 types. There's 1 to 2 orders, and we have greater or equal to 3 orders. So these expansion campaigns, that's basically what we look for. We look for orders either 1 to 2 or greater than 3, and then we pick all the converting targets. We launch campaigns with them, and basically we deduplicate, making sure we didn't test them anywhere else in the same match type, which shouldn't happen because that's the first time we're doing this, right? But eventually it's a process we repeat over and over as the data comes in. But in this stage here, it's basically, like I said, 1 to 2 orders. We just launch different campaign. We calculate the bids based on data, and then we launch a series of broad match and exact campaigns. Kind of like making sure we test everything that converted well, pretty much, right? So at this stage, we're expecting like a little bit higher ACOS on some of them, which is okay at the beginning. But at this stage already, it's proven that the ranking is already there. So at this stage, it's only like gaining more sales and potentially organic ranking.
And then,
we have broad, phrase, and exact, and product targeting. So with product targeting, it's basically any ASINs that converted 1 time. So we test that as well in that stage. And then the broad, phrase, and exact, it's 1 to 2 orders or greater or equal to 3, and then we break them up in separate campaigns.
Interesting. Okay, so you're really looking at the performance, and then you're going back, you're segmenting the campaigns based on the performance, and
yes,
the ones that are 3+, I'm guessing you might be going a little bit deeper on.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And then at this point, still manually going in and reviewing what your profitability targets are, adjusting bids. You're still going in very, very precise approach here, looking at the data pretty much every single day.
Yes. And then shortly after phase 3, then we start with our automated optimization, which is, we basically calculate the conversion rate, and then we select how many clicks we're willing to spend, and then we optimize based on that.
Okay.
I believe this one was about 15% conversion rate. So
Wow. That's solid.
yeah,
Especially for a high price product.
for high
That's
price
pretty good.
products, really good. It's really good. Yeah, it's really
Really
good.
good. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think that's we made through a little bit of the strategy here. Again, I don't know if we're cool to share the actual SOP, but feel free to watch this recording again, and I think you'll get a lot of the key points of it. I'll update the slides before we post this onto YouTube and make sure I get all of that in there. This is kind of looking at what do the numbers look like from an overall standpoint, looking at our overall impact. And so obviously this isn't just the exact match campaigns. This is the accumulation of phase one, phase two, and phase three. This is looking at the dashboard here. And you can see in the beginning, we're spending quite a bit on advertising and our profitability is low. But here we are just a few weeks in, already becoming profitable. And then once we get here to here we are week 35, 36, this is looking really good. And so the real advantages of this strategy, number one, is you're establishing relevancy really quick. So you're telling Amazon, here's what my product is, here's what I want to be indexed. And you can see we were like a number of days into the launch already seeing not just indexed, ranked rather in the first 45 positions on page one, we're seeing like single digit numbers. The other thing that this is going to help us do is it's going to keep non-converting traffic off of the listing until you've actually gotten those reviews. So instead of trying to like cast way too wide of a net in the beginning, you're saying like, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna cast the wide net, but I want to make sure we get those reviews first. I'm not moving on, remember, from that step one until we're checking off some of those boxes. Another big advantage is it's easy to ramp up budget once the listing is established. That's kind of getting into phase two, phase three, and a budget-friendly launch method. So like I said, the other launch strategies for PPC we had discussed previously, they weren't hitting profitability until like 2-3 months into the launch. This is accomplishing this a little bit faster. Do you use this strategy in all of the products you're launching, or do you kind of like pick and choose? Do you have different launch strategies, or is this kind of the default?
For this brand, yeah, that's the default for this brand. Some other brands that are like much larger where they launch a lot of products, obviously we can't do this because it's kind of super time consuming. But for this one, yeah, that's the go-to strategy for it. We have another one where we launch, I would say like 10, 15 products every couple months, right? So for that, doing this is super tricky because it's very, as you can tell, very time consuming. So we have a different method for that, and that seems to be working well as well. So yeah, it depends on the brand, I would say.
And just ballpark for me, I know there's a lot of manual parts of this strategy. If you were going to replicate this, what's a ballpark time estimation that it would take to implement this strategy on a weekly basis? Are we talking like hours per day, or like what are your thoughts there?
So the thing is, it doesn't take that much time. It just takes human time, right? You can't really automate this. As far as I know, it's not really possible yet, which I wouldn't feel comfortable automating this anyways. So in terms of time, I would say it really doesn't take that much time. It's just you gotta go in there every day and have a specific purpose for it. When you manage a lot of accounts, it's kind of tricky, right? You gotta make sure that you allocate your time wisely, right? So yeah, for a couple of brands, we could do this, but if we're launching like dozens of campaigns every month, that's going to be very tough in terms of yeah, using our time to do that versus something else, pretty much, right?
So a bit more realistic, especially for the newer sellers that are launching maybe just one product or not having too much to manage. It's more about consistency than it is about the time that you have to go in every day. And if you're not putting eyes
Yeah,
on this every day, it could start moving in the wrong direction or not progress as quick as it needs to.
right. So yeah, if it was my brand, of course, obviously, if you're launching one product or two products, sure, you definitely want to do this manually. The way I showed right there, yeah, that's probably the best strategy out there to launch anything, I would say. Then again, it depends on how you gotta have the skill set as well. How do you analyze the data? You have to understand PPC, you have to understand the market. Yes, if you don't understand that. It might take you like longer than it takes us, obviously, right? But yeah, I think this is our main way of launching products in the future for sure.
Okay, cool. So this is just some stats. I don't know if it's really profitable 1 week into launch, it's more like a couple of weeks into launch.
Yeah.
But already getting top organic ranks for pretty much all the relevant keywords, seeing sales just under 15K, PPC spend 3.3K with a 23% ACOS, which is super good. We're going to open it up for Q&A. So if anyone has questions, you can feel free to drop them into the chat or to raise your hand. I want to go through one more very quick example. This is something that was being shown to me yesterday, a potential for optimization, and looking a little bit at the PPC audit that's new inside a data dive. And so the question here is like, how could we potentially reduce ACOS, make the product a little bit more profitable while still maintaining a top organic rank? So that we're just kind of reinforcing that right here. And so this is something that was being shown to me yesterday. This is from inside Bernard's account, looking at some of the insights and recommendations that come through the PPC audit. So this PPC audit is live for our beta group right now. Everyone in Inner Circle got early access to this. And one of the areas that was giving some recommendations, you can see there's set 10 search terms here that are recommended for high investment, potentially not needed. And so you can see here, we've obviously blurred everything out, but it's looking at these campaigns and it's saying, okay, our organic rank is already in a really high position. Our impression rank, you can see here, is like all pretty much ones. And what it's suggesting here, the recommendation for these 10 search terms, is to slightly reduce the exact match type spending, and you're going to monitor the organic rank for stability. And so this has been going on for about a week now, reducing those bids in the range of about 15%. And the question is going to be, will that organic rank maintain itself? And could we save a little bit of money on the PPC? Could we potentially reduce ACOS a little bit for these keywords? And so this is a view inside of Rank Radar. You can see here, everything is blurred out. But what we're looking at here, this is looking at the PPC data. It's showing like, okay, for these keywords, this is looking at the root level for a group of keywords. That was one of the recommendations. And you can see, running a lot of different campaign types. Obviously, exact is the area that we're going to focus on. And the average organic rank is quite high. The impression rank is quite high. So could we throttle PPC spend and then maintain those organic ranks? I thought I had another screenshot which was showing the organic ranks to the left. But the test, it's only been going on for a week. So I think we're going to have to check in again and get the final numbers. It's quite new, but we wanted to share. It looks like the organic ranks are going to maintain. The thing I think to toggle with is going to be like, what is the overall impact of this? If we're only focusing on the exact match campaigns, is it going to be a material amount of money just reducing these search terms on the exact campaigns by 15%? Or is it going to be really tiny overall? And like, how far could you theoretically pull that lever and still maintain one of those top 3 to 4 spots, but fluctuating a little bit with your impression rank? Like, could you spend a little bit less and maintain those organic ranks? I know this is a little bit new. We don't have too much data to share here, but is there anything I'm missing about this strategy? Anything else you want to cover here?
Yeah, so the idea was cutting ad spend, right? So basically, we're looking for a way where we could have a comparison between before and after. And basically, we're still evaluating if the 15% was enough of a cut, right?
Yeah.
So far, it looks like the ranking is holding. Everything is in place. Everything is the same. We're probably going to go back in and cut the bids a little bit more, maybe another 15%, and then gauge performance, gauge ranking, and do like a comparison between what ad spend was before for the exact match targets and after, and see if it actually makes a difference. If it doesn't, if it does help, then we're probably going to cut even more, right?
Just see how far you can go and still maintain those organic ranks.
Exactly. And for how long as well, right? How long does it maintain that ranking? Because we could potentially lose ranking at some point. So we might have to turn on those campaigns at some point, but see if it actually makes sense. That's the whole point of this. If it financially makes sense in terms of time spent versus return on money, right? Because it does take time to analyze this as well, right? So is it something we're gonna, if it does make a lot of sense, then we're probably gonna do this on all the product lines we have.
That'll be interesting to see. What I like about your approach is that it's very granular. So I think a lot of people, they're like, man, I don't understand PPC. This is too complex. The reality is I think a lot of what we've explained today is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. But the reality is like you're going in on a regular basis, you're being very consistent, and you're not making these massive changes day to day. You're making these small micro adjustments. You're really monitoring the data, seeing what the data is telling you, and making adjustments from there. Same thing with this second strategy that we're covering. It's like, okay, we tested a little bit. Our organic rank seems to be maintaining. I think everyone here can wrap their head around it. It's like you're spending a lot on PPC. If I would spend a little bit less, is my organic rank going to stay the same? If it does stay the same, now we're looking at, could we reduce this even more? And at what point is there going to be a flip where we drop our bids too much and now our organic rank starts dropping? That's not what we want. How do we revert and kind of find that sweet spot?
Right.
Okay, cool. That is everything we have for today. I'm going to go through a couple of announcements and then we will open it up for the Q&A. Again, if you have any questions, you can drop them down into the chat below or raise your hand. We have a PPC Masterclass coming up. It's going to go in depth. I know the last one we did was super long. We're talking like 5-6 hours. Yeah. This one's going to be way more condensed. We're going to have a lot more explanation of some of the strategies we're talking about, not just like putting them out there and hoping that you're going to understand it. It's going to be a lot more detailed. This is going to be totally free for, usually it's free for anyone who's in Inner Circle. But it's going to be also free for Data Dive subscribers. This is a kind of a celebration that we broke 6,000 paid users inside of the software. So if you're watching here, you can go and join that totally for free. It's next week on September 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you can't join, there's going to be a recording and we're going to send it out to everyone after. There's also a couple new videos up on the YouTube channel. Now, one of them, this is the most heavily requested feature we've gotten at Data Dive. And this is the ability to add keywords, your own keywords that are nowhere in your research, add custom keywords to Rank Radar. Right now, this feature is in beta. So any of the people in our beta users, any Inner Circle members, you can start doing this right now. For everyone else, this is going to be released to everyone very soon. You can watch that video and see how to do it. It's very easy. We showed a lot about PPC today, obviously. So in Rank Radar, you can track organic ranks, but you're only getting a small portion of the picture if you're not connecting your PPC account to Data Dive. So we have a new updated video which walks through how to set up that connection. I've done it a few times in the past few weeks. Like if you're working with an agency, you can just copy a link, send it to them, and they can sign up all on their own without getting actual access to your account. So go watch that video and see how to connect your PPC account. And then one last video that I want to mention is a new feature. We released this a couple of months ago called Niche Compare. It allows you to look at your MKL and see the delta, the change between two different points in time. So if you haven't checked that out and seen how to set up auto dives, I definitely recommend watching those videos. This is just more about Data Dive. If you want to get started and you're not yet using the software, then you can sign up for a 1-month free trial. Just go to datadive.tool/demo. Someone will give you an onboarding call, and then they'll set you up with that free trial.